WWE No Way Out 2009. The retro review is for you here today on the channel. The show where Edge shocked the world inside the Elimination Chamber, not once, but twice on the same show, walking in as WWE Champion and losing that championship in the first few minutes of his first match of the night. So when he come back and become the World Heavyweight Champion at the end of the night. Spoiler alert, yep, that's how this show pretty much plays out. Be the big talking point of this show. There are 5 matches in total. As long with we've got 2 Elimination Chamber matches, we've also got a no-holds-barred match between Shane McMahon and Randy Orton. We've got HBK Shawn Michaels against JBL. And, well, NXT's favourite, the ECW World Championship, Jack Swagger, the champion, defending against Finlay. So we've got plenty to dive into, lots to get into talk about as well. As I say, it's Elimination Chamber season. So this is a perfect way to tune up before that show this year. It's the 15-year anniversary at the time of recording as well. Steve, what are your thoughts? WWE No Way Out 2009. Was you excited when you heard we were going to review this show? Had you seen the show before? And was you happy with the result?
Yeah, I remember watching the show. Watching it back, though, it was kind of... This isn't the greatest wrestling pay-per-view if you're a wrestling fan. I think if you're a story-driven fan, though, this is a great pay-per-view because there's so much that comes out from this point onwards. And just what goes on in it. Like, you imagine... Edge losing a title in the first match and then winning a completely different title in his next match. It's one of them sort of real fan crazy ideas. It's like, wouldn't it be just mad if like he lost it and then he wins and he comes out and do you know what I mean? It's a real like just complete crazy idea that you'd never think that they do in a million years. But man, yeah, they pulled it off. And yeah, it's like I said, it's a very entertaining show from a story wise. But there's points in this show where I'm just like, this isn't for the wrestling fans out there. Just must say, if you imagine for you, this would have been great because it's like you're obviously a story guy. I'm beginning to become much more of a story-driven guy, and like I'm excited to talk about JBL and Michaels because this is like a key moment in the timeline for Shawn Michaels this pay-per-view. So I'm like I said, I was really excited and looking forward to it.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, I've got to say the same. Obviously, I didn't see this show when it first happened. I read obviously what happened and was shocked at the time. It was one of those where you go and read the spoilers. Go, God, Edge has come out as WWE or walked in as WWE champion, walked out as World Heavyweight Champion. And as Pierre in the house, by the way, thank you, Pierre, for joining us. Says Edge is a history maker for doing this. The ultimate opportunist literally comes into play here. That is what Edge is after this. But yeah, I mean, like you say, the direction that goes to it is incredible storyline wise. And I didn't get to see this show until probably I'd say about 5-6 years ago, and I've got to say was blown away the first time I watched it, like you say, from a storyline perspective. Especially at that point I'd forgotten everything that happens afterwards because I was going through the network pay-per-views, but to now come and see it here as a review once again and to do it for this channel, I was pretty excited about it. Was really happy. A lot of hype with our subscribers that voted for this show as well. So yeah, looking forward to diving straight into it. But Pierre does say that I think nobody will ever do this again since we have a chamber match for the men and for the women's year. It's probably not something we'd see again in future, but certainly was great for the time period. And Pierre is going to say as well that the JBL Michaels story was pretty good. It certainly was indeed. We'll be diving into the full details of that as we go through the show. But without further ado, let's just give a few bits of details for those people that are looking for it. This was on February 15th, of course, it would say 2009, which was the No Way Out show. The city was Seattle, Washington, and we were at the King Arena was the venue for this show. The attendance in there was 11,200, and we're in the buy rate era. No networks, no peacocks, no, well, soon to be Netflix. 272,000, I should say, is the buy rate here for this show. And for those that do love a pay-per-view track, a theme for the night, it was the great band Saliva with Hunt You Down, which I've got to say, I thought was a pretty darn good track. I'm a big fan of Saliva personally. So, yeah, I mean, going into it, looking at the commentary team that we had on the night as well, we had the respective for Raw matches, Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. For SmackDown was Jim Ross and Taz, which, of course, this is actually Taz's last, I think, pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. He does leave just before WrestleMania 25. And for ECW, Todd Grisham and Matt Stryker. We'll go into the opening video package just to start off with, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Nick, Steve, because pretty much a lot of focus is actually outside of the chamber matches to begin with, actually looking at the idea of Shane McMahon looking to get revenge on Randy Orton, who punted Vince McMahon in the head. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Shane vows to get payback as well for that, of course, and trying to take Randy Orton out of WrestleMania. JBL, of course, it says he's was paying HBK to get him to WrestleMania, but HBK had failed. HBK said that he wants to kick JBL's teeth down his throat. JBL challenges him to this match at No Way Out. And of course, if HBK wins, he's free of being of the services of the assistant to JBL. And of course, if he loses, then of course he will be an associate with JBL for the rest of his life, and says to bring Shawn to bring his wife to the show because he wants to show how much of a broken down old man Shawn has become. Of course, there is a bit of hype for the chamber matches. There is 2 of them after all, the main focus being on the world champions, of course, WWE champion Edge, and of course, world champion John Cena going into the matches, the barbaric structure that is the Elimination Chamber. So that's pretty much the video package all in all. What were your thoughts for the opening video package? I thought it was great to hype a lot of the stories, but it was actually, for me, it was actually a surprise to see a lot of focus outside of the chamber rather than actually the chamber itself.
I think that was my biggest gripe with it. The fact that the opening shot is Shane McMahon. And I'm like, oh, only WWE could focus on Shane McMahon being in a match rather than the 2 hyped up matches that we're going to have inside a chamber and all this, a few 10 tons of steel and, do you know what I mean? The bulletproof glass that they, like one of the commentators says later. And I'm like, yeah, sure it is. Because, bulletproof glass is that flexible. I'll be honest with you, the commentary team, shocking all night, all 3 sets of teams that a lot of them were waffling a lot of time. There's one part during the Finlay match where I think it's Matt Striker turns around and he says something that completely was pointless because he says, oh, it's like it was a 50-50 comment, but it was so unnecessary because it was like, what are you talking about, man? This was the real disappointment for me with this one show was the commentaries because they did honestly just waffle the most utter rubbish. Back to the opening package. Hey, I'm a massive fan of an opening package. It's always nice when going into a show that we have some basis for some of these stories. The fact that Shane McMahon is the main emphasis on the chamber, with a pay-per-view with 2 chamber matches is kind of the down point for me. Shane McMahon being a face. Does Shane McMahon ever win as a babyface, by the way? Because I'm pretty sure every time they book him as a babyface, he loses. Like, he only ever wins when he's a heel. So you're kind of like, I can already tell where this one's going without looking at the results. But as for the song, I too am equally a massive Saliva fan. Not my most favorite track they've ever used. I was always a big fan. Was it Always? I can't remember what show it was on, but Always was a banging one that they used on one of the other shows. But yeah, no, like I said, it's always good to have an open package. Just Shane McMahon shouldn't be the emphasis of this pay-per-view.
Just to say, Saliva Always, Survivor Series 2002, one of my favorite pay-per-views. And it shows how much of a mark I am and how much I like Saliva. I've got to say, it's one of my favorite tracks as well. But yeah, I mean, Shane McMahon perhaps shouldn't be the main focus of an opening video package. But what I would say to a positive of this video package, because I looked at it from 2 sides, I was like, not so much focus on the chamber, but obviously we know there's 2 chamber matches, 2 top title matches as well to take shape for WrestleMania. That's important. But I felt like actually 2 more matches of this show feel really important as well. So looking at this, it's a 5-match show. Actually, 4 of the 5 matches for them means something. So I was like, well, this is good. I'm going to strap myself in for this one. This is something to look forward to. So there is actually a dark match as well, we should make mention. Didn't find this in the dark corners of Daily Motion at the time of recording, but apparently Melina does retain the Divas Championship against Beth Phoenix. That is a dark match that is done before the pay-per-view starts. So that's unfortunately as much we can give on that. But one thing we can turn around and say is the opening contest of the show. This happens to be then for the WWE Championship inside the Elimination Chamber. This is the SmackDown side of things as well. We've got Edge, the champion, going against Jeff Hardy, Triple H, the Undertaker, the Big Show, and Vladimir Kozlov. Quite the lineup, I've got to say. There's a lot of star power in this.
Yeah, my only issue is that, don't get me wrong, like I looked at this and I turned around and went, Big Show and Kozlov, if you put these 2 in a chamber match, I don't think they've got a realistic chance of winning, but I know they're in here for a reason in terms of how the match is going to go, which is what I can respect from it, because like if you said, if you look at this card, I'm like, oh, I bet it's absolute garbage. But they're in there for a point, for a story, for a narrative, and it worked out pretty well. To be fair, Vladimir Kozlov, I never understood why he got such a push. He was kind of like just around for like the shortest amount of time. Went on this at this point an undefeated run, and then he kind of just disappears after this, and it's kind of like, you know what I mean? I can't understand why they put someone like that in there. I presume it's because it's someone that can take a loss. But otherwise, if you look at the other four names, yeah, stellar names. Obviously, with Jeff, obviously being he was WWE champion just before Christmas, because obviously this happens in the February. And this was kind of the weird thing, that this match was his rematch for the title, and it was like, what, don't get a one-on-one? He's got to fight 5 other dudes for it. But yeah, man, it's like I said, the other 4, they're solid names. You can't go wrong with them.
No, you can't indeed. Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot of high profile names, and obviously Kozlov is the outsider name, like you say, Big Show. There's a role involved there for those 2 guys, but any of the other 4, you could have easily seen walking away with the prize here. But obviously, Big Show does play a storyline narrative at the very start of this match. As people going around the pods, Triple H makes his entrance, and instead of spitting his water, he actually spits it in the pod at the Big Show. I thought it was quite a humorous moment.
Yeah, actually, I like it when they do this kind of stuff, because it almost builds to the anticipation of a match. But you know, it's one of these things that we don't really see as much anymore. Like, it's kind of you see them squaring up to each other, but I can't remember anyone else ever doing something like that. Do you know what I mean? This thing from Triple H here, I know proper. You can imagine poor Big Show was just proper pissed off at that as well, because I would be if someone did that to me. But it's, again, a great way to drive anticipation, anger. Do you know what I mean? Just waiting for those 2 to get their hands on each other.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, I was looking forward to that, actually, just looking at that moment there. But obviously, then looking at the people that started the match here, obviously we had the people in the pods name of Vladimir Kozlov, Big Show, Triple H, and the Undertaker, which meant starting off this match was Edge and Jeff Hardy. And like you mentioned, this is Jeff Hardy's rematch here to try and get the WWE Championship back. Obviously, Hardy misses a swanton early into the match, which gives Edge the opportunity to go for a spear. And as he runs then to do that spear, he gets caught into a small package. And funnily enough, this is about 3 minutes into the match. You need 5 minutes until a pod opens and someone else joins in the ring. Jeff Hardy gets the pinfall on Edge. So Edge is the champion walking in. And then, like we say, within about 3 minutes of the match starting, you're guaranteed a brand new WWE champion, which, to be fair, is shock booking. But it's a big twist. I love the sort of focus that's on Edge afterwards, because he's shocked. You can see it. He's dancing around to pod, not knowing what to do with himself. Pretty much the superstars in the pods are laughing at him as well, which is quite fun to see. For me, I just thought to myself, it's a shock moment, but it does what it needs to do here, because Edge at this point, at the start of it, you know, he's the ultimate opportunist, looks for his path for WrestleMania 25, wants to walk in as champion, but obviously it's gone wrong for him on the last pit stop, the last PLE, the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. We've literally just got started.
Yeah, the shock factor alone is amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a dodgy fast count from the referee anyway. I know it's a roll-up, but like, the ref is a tad bit quick with it. But for me, just to go back to the commentary team, this is kind of what sets the mood for the night with the commentary team, because from then on, it's constantly about statistics and about, oh yeah, well, now that, like, there's one point where I think it's Cole and Jerry Lawler, they start talking about percentages of winning, and I'm like, no one cares, dude. Just get on with the show. Honestly, no one cares about it. It's like 67% of a chance for John Cena to retain his world. No one cares. But back to the match anyway. Yeah, it's, do you know, it's one of them, just them shock factors where you just sit there and go, did they honestly just did someone screw up? Did Edge not kick out? Did the ref do a fast count? Do you know what I mean? Was he supposed to kick out? And do you know what I mean? It's a great, like, because your brain is like, Edge is probably going to retain this. Like, when this is the thing, when it gets to the February-based pay-per-view, No Way Out, Elimination Chamber, you can kind of see that the champions normally retain, because we're getting close to Mania season, and it's like, it's not very often they will tend to lose them. So for Edge to get beaten in less than 3 minutes is fantastic, and it proper. I can imagine watching this live and just being like, oh my God, we are going to get a new WWE champion tonight. It's just like, it's the excitement thriller of, do you know what I mean? The unknown. So it's just a really exciting way to open a show.
It really is, because like you say, just that path when you're in WrestleMania is just around the corner and anything can happen. And I think when you see in more recent years, we do get the occasional title change, but it doesn't happen as much as it did in the old days, where like the Rumble winner would, have time to decide, but they wouldn't even have to worry until after the Chamber on our way out to make their decision, because this used to be what was waiting for people. And this was always a lot of changes, twists, and turns would come along. So, and this was probably the biggest twist we'd seen in a long time. 6 superstars in the match, like you say, Edge. If he's going to lose it, you'd imagine it'd be towards the end of the match, not at the very beginning. So, kudos to everyone involved. Obviously, Jeff Hardy technically wins his rematch, just doesn't get the championship off of Edge, unfortunately, through that way. But look, there is one bit I would say critique of the commentary team. You mentioned the commentary team, so I'm going to have one critique as well. They do make mention, Jim Ross and Taz, twice about how it's 5 minutes till someone joins the ring, and it will be 3 people unless someone's eliminated. They make a key point of it, like Taz like double check. If someone's eliminated, then so there's like one person where it's like, guys, don't give it away. Obviously, now you watch it in a rewatch, you can see it, but for a first time watch, you would kind of like, that's why they were talking about that.
There is another moment later on. Not even that. There's it's an elimination chamber match. Yet Jim Ross is banging on about that pinfalls can only happen inside the ring, and I'm like, hang on a minute, it's a chamber match. Why do we keep changing the rules every time this match rolls around? Because one year they'll be allowed to do pinfalls outside, and the fact that later on there's a foot on the rope and it's an elimination chamber match. Why is there a rope break? It just doesn't make sense do you know what I mean? From a logical standpoint, it doesn't make sense, but you can understand why they're doing it. But consistency, people, like pinfalls inside, outside the ring, just make sure it's the same every year.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree. Indeed, the chat is going a bit crazy at the minute. A lot of love for Vladimir Kozlov at the minute there in TNA. We have seen him in TNA, indeed, of course, in the Hard to Kill show recently. Zane will come to that question very shortly, but we'll mention about how Vladimir Kozlov was actually in chances at that point. I remember Survivor Series, I think 2008, he was actually in the title match with Triple H at that point. So, I think Edge may have also been around near that period as well. But apparently he also beat The Undertaker clean on the SmackDown episode. That just shows how much they were in on the Kozlov train. We'll go back into the match anyway, because obviously Edge has been eliminated. Jeff Hardy's waiting for the next person to come in. We mentioned Kozlov, a lot of love for Kozlov. So, he enters next. Kozlov runs repeatedly into the cage with Hardy. So Hardy's going back first into like a fall away stand position, then into the ring. It was quite a cool looking spot, actually. Big Show enters at number 4. And this is where you kind of get your rest period of the match. You have the big hype of Edge being eliminated early. We need to calm you down for like the final third of this match, because Big Show and Kozlov just pretty much take turns on beating down Jeff Hardy. Poor Jeff Hardy. And it's not really kind of double teams. They're kind of staring each other out. Kozlov and Big Show just doing a move, staring at the other guy. Hardy then takes another move, stare at the other guy, and eventually Kozlov does turn on the show after a few minutes. And of course, this is when Triple H enters the match at number 5, and you could argue things pick up. But would you agree with me that things at that point were just, it was like a calm down, it was a rest period, wasn't it?
Yeah, I understand it, but like for me, not watching this since obviously 2009, and I'm 15 minutes into a match and I've just watched 10 minutes of 2 like big guys just beating on Jeff Hardy. And I'm kind of like, is this setting up the rest of the show? Is it really going to be like this? Like this is the point where I'm kind of like, this isn't going to be the greatest wrestling show. I can already tell. But it's like, it's the opening match. To have 10 minutes worth of sort of, do you know what I mean, downtime when you're 3, 4, 5 minutes into a chamber match kind of just seems a bit weird from a booking standpoint. Like, you're supposed to be making the most of this. This is why I'm not a fan of the big guys in the chamber, because they only can do so much, where it's kind of like, then at some point, ultimately, there'll always be a point where, like, for instance, Big Show has a point where he comes off the rope, tries to do a splash against the 2 guys against the cage, and what happens? Moves out of the way. Oh, and guess what? Big Show's out for 10 minutes, and it's kind of like, this is why I'm not a fan of the minute. Like, I like these are unique structures. Do you know what I mean? We see them once a year. Make the most of it. I don't want to see a 6 foot, 7 guy with size 19 feet, as JR like to bang on about. Do you know what I mean? Just make most of what you've got. And it was like 10 minutes in, I was seriously worried at this point for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I can see your point of view with that, to be fair. But thankfully, obviously, once Triple H comes into the ring, I think this does go up, well, 1 or 2 gears, to be fair, for the remainder of this match. Obviously, Kozlov misses a clothesline and goes headfirst into a pod, which I think is quite a fun moment as well. Big Show does stop Triple H pedigreeing Kozlov on the steel floor in there. But Show goes off the top rope to squash Triple H into the steel. Hardy is then caught as well, throwing Triple H on this sort of side of the cage, if you will. And Show comes off the rope, misses both, and goes into the steel. Like you said, that's probably when it's taken out for about 10 minutes. But Undertaker actually comes into the match then, number 6. And we've got an interesting version of the Snake Eyes and Kozlov. Poor Kozlov, not quite up to the task at this point. But Taker's cleaning house. We see a reverse chokeslam attempt as well into a DDT, which shows Big Show then going into the steel structure as well. Kozlov has Taker in the corner with some punches. Taker reverses it, hits a last ride to get the pin on Vladimir Kozlov, taking him out of the match. Show throws Jeff Hardy into the cage, but then we see Show does that. Jeff Hardy's actually climbing up to the cage, a bit Spider-Man-like, which commentary did make mention, goes to the top of the pod. Before he can actually jump off of it, Big Show pulls the leg, so he's kind of sort of stuck in between. A bit of stuck in between the pod, really. Big Show climbs the top rope, starts laying into Jeff Hardy there, and that's when Taker goes and meets him towards the top rope. Taker hits a superplex on the Big Show, and obviously then Triple H lands a pedigree, which then we see Jeff Hardy doing a swanton off the top of the pod onto Big Show, which is a cool looking spot, and Triple H puts the arm over for the pin. NXT, we're going to come to you on those couple of eliminations there, because like I say, things pick up a little bit here. The big men have been eliminated as well, particularly the Big Show one for me was quite a fun one, seeing different variations and finishing moves to make sure he's protected in defeat as well, and showing it's a big deal to get him out of the match.
Yeah, I mean, any normal time that the Big Show gets suplexed off the top of the ring, the turnbuckle, the ring normally implodes. So I think we were quite lucky that there was 10 tons of steel holding it up. But just to go on Kozlov, what was the point of him being in this match? Like, he doesn't really have any spots. Do you know what I mean? He has no point to shine. He's kind of just a body in here, and I suppose it's just a way for Undertaker to get an easy pinfall over someone. Oh, okay, sure, I'll take it. But yeah, Big Show, you can't go wrong. He's always willing to do the job for people. It's like I said, watching Jeff do a swanton off the top of a pod scares me every time he does a swanton, man, because he always just about gets that rotation off at the very last second. So it's always a scary sight to see. But yeah, man, the fact that we're left with 3 people in here, and then you'll have to remind me on this. Is this before or after Jeff has that famous match with Undertaker? This is before. I don't know. You have to remind me, because you know where Taker's the badass, American Badass. This is after, isn't it?
So that was in 2003. So that was a few years earlier. The match that was main eventing Raw, and where I think it's Jim Ross in commentary says, "Make yourself famous, kid." Where he's climbing the ladder, obviously, and doesn't get the victory in the end. But obviously Jeff Hardy and Undertaker, no strangers to facing off one another. Obviously through the years, even on the SmackDown during this era as well, they did have a couple of matches, if my memory does serve me correctly, as well there. But obviously, like we said, we go into the final part here, and we mentioned about Jeff Hardy and Undertaker to be no strangers to one another. Jeff uses the Undertaker to sort of springboard himself over the top rope into Triple H, into the steel, whisper in the wind, which was quite fun to see. A patented Hardy's tag team move they used with the Undertaker doing the assist. We see though the Undertaker hitting Hardy with a tombstone pile driver very shortly after, to get the pinfall victory. So poor Jeff Hardy gets his rematch in the chamber, gets to the final 3, but is eliminated by the dead man. We get down to the final 2, and I've got to say, for me, probably my favorite part of this match, really, when it comes down to these. There's some great near falls in this one. Triple H attempting a pedigree, but it's slingshotted into the steel. As Taker goes for a tombstone on the steel, Triple H actually manages to use his leverage to get back in the ring, sort of flip themselves over. So Triple H is the one standing, and Undertaker is the one that's actually in the tombstone position. Of course, it doesn't last very long, goes back to the other way. Taker hits a tombstone for a 2 count, which is a fantastic reaction from the crowd. Triple H shortly afterwards then hits a pedigree himself, also a near full. People really bought into these ones as well. And as Taker goes for that last ride one last time, Triple H manages to get over the top of the Undertaker. Taker turns and he falls victim to another pedigree, and a 1, 2, 3. And your brand new WWE champion is none other than Triple H. And of course, that is in the same year that Randy Orton had won the Royal Rumble. And of course, with the stuff going on with the McMahons and Stephanie on Raw, that direction for WrestleMania just seemed a hell of a lot clearer, a hell of a lot quickly.
You know, it's like I can't fault this show actually for like the closing moments of matches. Like the near falls are great in this match, and they're great in like a couple like the other matches later on as well. Yeah, it was kind of like it almost seems like for me, it seems like you get this kind of quality ends to matches. Then we stopped getting this for a while, and now we're starting to get it again, where we get these quality near falls that get the crowd popping hard. But it's a great finish. Probably one of the best unique reversals into a tombstone as well, with Undertaker getting Triple H over the rope as well. Like for almost as nearly messing it up, I thought it was great, and it's like I said, probably just one of the best reversals I've seen into a tombstone. But a great solid finish to a match. And yeah, like you said, it's the fact that Triple H has won and Randy won the Rumble. It's kind of like, well, we know where this is going now.
Yeah, which is fantastic because obviously going into that show, Edge is your WWE champion. You can imagine where he probably would have been going as a direction at that point. Probably felt directionless, maybe looking at the way things are going. Maybe Jeff Hardy was the potential contender, but yeah, Triple H versus Randy Orton at that point was a really big story. I remember actually going that road to WrestleMania was a really fun time with them too. We may even cover WrestleMania 25 at some point in the very near future, but yes, certainly for me, all in all, to keep focus on this match here, I thought this was a brilliant opener. I think it was the longest match of the show as well. This one going 35 minutes and 55 seconds, hence why there's quite a lot of detail with this match here. Big Dave giving this a 4.25 star rating. Big Dave was a big fan of this, Dave, much for those that do like to keep up with their star ratings with this one. Would you say that Dave's on the money with this one?
I think Dave's a little bit generous, if I'm honest. Like I said, when you're 5 minutes in and you've then got a 10-minute rest period, I think he's just a killer for me. But great start, excellent finish. Middle's a bit dodgy. I'd probably go a 3.75.
I think that's a fair rating. I'm going to go slightly in the middle of you two, just because I do agree with you. I think, though, in a way, I feel the pacing of the match in a way is kind of good. I think it helps the idea, like you say, it's a rest period in the middle there, because like you've had such an impactful start, and you have like it's almost like a roller coaster. You start really going up high, and you lead yourself back down, or you go down with the fast rate, going back up again, then boom into the finish. So in a way, I kind of like the way they do it. So I'm going to go with a 4-star rating for it. But yeah, like you say, ticks a lot of boxes. I think it's a really good chamber match, and I'd say anyone that wants to go out of the way to do so, make sure they do go and check it on the network. And of course, it's not hard to do. It's the first match on this particular show of No Way Out 2009. But obviously, we go backstage and we mentioned Edge. Of course, he's going to be the famous one that's going to be mentioned a lot on this stream, but giving excuses to Vicky Guerrero, saying that, he wants the match restarted again. And Vicky actually tells him, look, you screwed up. You lost. But she does eventually end up consoling him. Obviously, this is where Edge and Vicky Guerrero probably start scheming of what they're looking to try and do to get Edge into a main event of WrestleMania.
The thing is as well, like, you sit here at this point and you're like, what is he going to do? Like, no, I don't think anyone was expecting what happened to happen. And you're kind of like you sit there and think, right, well, this will be interesting to tune back in on Raw or SmackDown, whatever show the titles are on at that point, to see what he's going to do. But the fact that he's going to Vicky to need to restart the match, and it's like, hang on a minute, you've been banging on about this for like 25, 30 minutes since you got pinned. You know what I mean? It's like, it ain't going to happen, man. But it's a great it's a great dynamic duo, like for the time period, because obviously it's after this he teams up with Lita, isn't it, and basically elbows Vicky out the door and it's no more. But yeah, just like I said, a fun little spot. Just strange that like I said, you watch this show as a whole and you're kind of like, okay, it makes a lot more sense now. But like I said, you're at the point you're like, well, what are you going to do? Because he just disappears, and they're like, sure, okay, fine. Not expecting anything to happen.
Well, it's kind of fun with the cliffhanger for Edge of like what's next, because if he had not come out later in the show, you really would have needed to tune into SmackDown and go, well, hang on, what's going on with Edge now? Like, what's the story here? Which was a fun time. But obviously, this is the last time JR was mentioned on this show, so this is an appropriate time to answer this question from Zane. Thank you for it. Is JR the greatest commentator of all time, in your opinion, Steve?
For me personally, I'm going to say no, just because I'm a Mauro Ranallo sucker, and like, that guy just knows how to gas the home people, like the people sitting at home watching the show. Mauro Ranallo is my guy, man, because he just, man, his Mamma Mia's, and like he just sells it. To me, he's like almost like a fan watching when he does his commentary. Whereas with JR, I do like him, but No one gets me excited as much as Moro does. That sounds kind of weird.
To be fair, look, I hear you. I think Morrow is fantastic. He's certainly top 3 for me. And it was such a short stint in wrestling as well. But I mean, JR for me, obviously going through from like watching old NWA 80s pay-per-views all the way through to he's still doing it today, and he's still I know he's a bit more salty today than perhaps what he was say 5 or 10 years ago, but JR for me I think has to be the greatest commentator of all time in my opinion, just purely because of the fact he's been around for so many of the great moments, been through some of the best eras. You know, he probably arguably made the switch, maybe not at the right time, but obviously he was fired from WCW I think end of 1992 going into start of 1993, and of course he was then a part of WWF from WrestleMania 9, and obviously he's been on and off, fired and not fired from the company there. But for me, I think that JR for me, he's been through too much in WWE over the years, and like I say, but through the Austin era, his Attitude era, Ruthless Aggression, you know, JR's been through all the best times. So for me, I'm going to go and say yes, but I respect your call for Morrow. Ray going with an alternative question: who is the worst commentator of all time? There's been a few humdingers across the years, and none of them are on this show, thankfully. For me, Mike Adamle might be the guy that just might take the crown for that one, who was a WWE commentator not too long before this. But there was another one that was on Raw in the sort of like just before the pandemic, I think, or just after it. That was not very good either, but I can't remember his name from the top of my head. So yeah, I'm going with Mike Adamle for me.
I am not the biggest fan of Booker T. Like, I don't know what it is about Booker T's commentary, but he just seems like it's almost like he's gassed about everything. Like, he talks like they'll be doing a rest hold, and Booker T is selling it like it's main event mania, and like it's the finish of the match, and it's like, dude, it's a rest hold on a Tuesday night on SmackDown in the opening match. Chill out, my guy. Like, I can't get behind him, unfortunately.
He does have to whoop that trick, though. I will give him that. He's definitely good with the whoop that trick. But hey, we'll move on in the meantime. And I'll tell you what, this is an important show. Only 5 matches on it, but every match, bar one, feels important. But this one, speaking of bar, it's no holds barred. We've got Shane McMahon versus Randy Orton.
Dude, you're forgetting the best part about this. You've not talked about Randy Orton's promo. You was probably going to mention it, but let me give you a solid reenactment. Hey, Shane, dude, what a promo. The absolute biggest pile of garbage I've ever seen in my life, because he stands there for 30 seconds like
it's in a trance, isn't he?
What? Yeah, it's like, dude, say something. Like, does he not know it's live? What's going on? It's like, oh, generally the most horrific promo I've ever seen Randy Orton doing, man. It was hilarious and bad at the same time.
Well, let's talk about that first before the video package, because, like you say, the detail that eventually comes out of him. But yeah, it was a moment where it's kind of like, dude, we're live. But yeah, Shane, listen up.
Exactly, that's it.
How's your father? He must have come home from hospital at this point. Obviously, been punted in the head by Randy. He says he will feel helpless for the first time watching you cry in pain. I'm going to make my legacy at the expense of yours. You'll be watching WrestleMania with your old man. I will take my rightful place in the main event. See, like you say, not really too much detail really to take from this, apart from I'm going to hurt Shane McMahon in this match. But hey, he knew I'd waste about 3 or 4 minutes doing so. But hey, what were your thoughts of the video package? Just quickly go into a bit of detail for those that are probably unaware of the build of this match. Obviously, Vince McMahon is about to fire Randy Orton after Orton had won the Royal Rumble, but Orton attacks Vince McMahon just before the "you're fired" thing is said. Includes a punt to the head, which of course was Randy's thing at the time, taking people out of action for a long time. Orton says that he's got some intermittent explosive disorder, IED. So when provoked, rage takes over. He's unable to control his actions, and he said he will sue WWE if he's fired. He said that it's pretty much not his fault. Not quite Snitsky though. But Orton begs Stephanie McMahon to fire him. Steph says though, but that would be easy. We've got bigger plans. Shane McMahon returns and attacks Randy Orton. Shane vows to take Randy Orton out of WrestleMania, which is why Randy says he's going to take his rightful place in the main event. Should we see Shane using kendo sticks on the legacy members? Of course, Cody Rhodes gets a mention on this stream along with Ted DiBiase. It won't be the last time they'll be mentioned either. But we do do see Legacy attack Shane McMahon backstage, and obviously this is a point where Shane also knocks Stephanie to the ground because they're together at this moment. Randy Orton has a choice who he's going to punt in the head. Will it be Shane or Stephanie? It looks like he's going to go for Stephanie, but Shane gets in the way at the last moment to take the boot in the stomach. Randy claims he was never going to do it. He wants her to see him take out another member of her family. And just to finish off, because of course Shane McMahon would do a coast to coast on Monday Night Raw just to get the advantage going into the show. For me, I was kind of thankful for this video package. It sort of, refreshed my memory of a lot was going on. You didn't need to see Raw for 4 weeks to know what was happening here. But quite eventful, to be honest, looking at this one going. So this felt very heated, felt very appropriate for the no holds barred stipulation.
It was, but it's also amazing to see how the product's changed in 15 years because a mental health thing they wouldn't be doing in a promo or storyline anymore. So again, I'm okay with it for the time period, but again, they won't do that anymore. And also the fact that Randy's going to punt Stephanie in the head, again, something they won't be doing today. But like I said, it's a blessing and a hindrance to see what they used to do, and you're kind of like, I don't know how they got away with this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm the same as you. It's the fact that I've got a story is a plus, just because otherwise I'd have no clue on why these two are even fighting. So I'm always down for that.
Absolutely, and very well referenced as well with both of those. Then obviously, this is a PG time in WWE as well. 2008 was then the PG change. I don't know if there was occasional times they went for TV-14 still, but it was meant to be a PG product from 2008. So it shows what you could do back then under the PG banner. But we're going to go into the match itself. Reigns gave his shout for the worst commentator. He believes Kevin Patrick, in his opinion, was the worst commentator. But going into the match itself, then this one for me, quite a bit of detail. This match is quite a lengthy one as well. Goes to 18 minutes and 16 seconds. So starting off, Shane is actually thrown into an exposed turnbuckle back first. So it shows we're getting the toys in nice and early. Orton loses focus though when Shane is on the floor. Shane is able to get a kendo stick and starts beating on the Viper with multiple occasions and multiple areas of the body as well. Shane clotheslines Orton on the floor as well and actually places Randy Orton on the table after hitting him with a TV monitor. And of course, that TV monitor actually busts Randy open as well, and he's completely lifeless when he's laying on that commentary table, which I think is actually really awesome, the way that he actually makes himself seem so out of it. As Shane climbs the turnbuckle, this is when the rest of Legacy get involved. Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase attacking Shane McMahon. Cody accidentally hits though Ted DiBiase with a chair, so then Shane can hit him with a DDT on a steel chair as well. Shane goes coast to coast, of course, in the match once again, hitting Cody Rhodes there while Cody's holding a trash can in the corner. We've got a beautiful camera shot though. I have to make reference to this. When Shane's about to do the coast to coast, just before he does it, you can see Cody in the corner on the opposite end of the ring, and you can see Randy's lifeless body still on the table. It's like Shane has a decision to make. What one should he go for? Should he go for the table or should he go for Cody? He goes for Cody. He goes back to the top rope. He's going to go for the elbow drop on Randy Orton. And of course, wouldn't you know it, Randy Orton moves out of the way at the very last second with Shane going through the table. Honestly, for me at this point, quite eventful. So I'm going to bring you in here, Rennick, Steve. Your thoughts of this match so far?
Yeah, it's for me with this match, it was like you said, that one shot there, but there's also another one later on, just before the end, where Randy's just getting up and he turns and looks over his left shoulder, and you can just see one half of his face covered in claret. And it's a great shot. And I'm like, man, props to whoever done the camera work for this one, because it's shot really well, and like it does a lot to make you feel part of it and give you those things like you said with the elbow drop or the coast to coast. You know what I mean? Really sort of delivers to it. But yeah, it's dude, seeing Cody alone in in tighty whities, you know what I mean, is just the most random thing again, because obviously he wears full lengths now, and like isn't this the reason why he becomes dashing Cody Rhodes as well? Like, because of that kick to the face. Because I'm pretty sure there's something along that lines as to why he starts wearing the face mask and everything, doesn't it?
Eventually, yeah. He's got another year, I think, before that gimmick kicks in, because Legacy, I think, breaks up at WrestleMania 26, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So I'm just, like I said, my time, I couldn't remember dates and times for the London West. Why I have to ask you, but yeah, it's it was more than what I was expecting as well. Like I said, when you see the monitor being used as a weapon, and we have blood, which is again such a rarity nowadays, and you forget it's 2009 and this thing's allowed, and it's kind of like it added so much more to the match, and the fact that every time Randy rolls over in the ring, there's just a smear of blood everywhere on the canvas. So it's like, okay, I like this. I find it thoroughly entertaining. I prefer the match from this point onwards, though, because this is where we get more of a 50-50 story going, whereas I felt like up to the point where Shane's hitting with the monitor, it's all Shane from this point. The fact that Shane's got the better of Cody and Ted DiBiase Jr., I was kind of like, yeah. And then, like I said at the start of the show, Shane doesn't win many matches when he's a face. But like I said, from this point onwards is where I get really invested, because we start going 50-50. Like, it's really the case of, okay, I don't actually know who's going. Like, watching this fresh is like, I don't actually know who's going to win. Like, for me, I didn't look at the results so I didn't know anything coming out of this. So I can imagine Randy would have won, but do you know what I mean? It was like here that I'm kind of like, okay, I can see Shane might actually have a chance of winning this now.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is as well, like, this is the point where Shane's gone through the table. Then Randy's got himself to try and get himself back together. He sees Ted DiBiase and Cody in the ring, and obviously he says to Ted, take Cody to the back, getting checked on by the doctors. So Randy's then left to do this on his own, which I think is a good thing, because obviously, I don't think it's not really the best look to have to do a 3-1 to beat Shane McMahon. I understand the reasoning of using them in this match to this point, but to actually finish the match off, I think was good that it was left for 1-on-1 for the rest of it here. Obviously, Randy then gets Shane into the feet on the ropes as the vintage Randy Orton DDT into the ring. He goes for 3 different pin attempts on Shane, not accepting that Shane had kicked out on each occasion. We see a table brought into the ring, and Randy Orton superplexes Shane McMahon through that table. Again, a 2 count at this point. Pretty good looking spot as well. Orton goes for the punk kick on Shane McMahon, but of course Shane does keep himself together and lands a spear. I thought that was a bit of an interesting looking spear, not the best spear I've ever seen, but however, I did think it got a good reaction from the crowd that he did do that, and obviously then getting a bit of revenge on Randy Orton with multiple chair shots to Orton, including his left leg, which of course left Orton a bit vulnerable. Shane looks to do a punk kick of his own, and just like you mentioned there, just before the end, Randy Orton, a quick glance there, you could just see, just as Shane was coming in, he managed to reverse it and hit an RKO to pick up the 1, 2, 3. I thought it was a very good finish. I love the way that sort of cinematically it was done, and I think as well it's just one of those sort of vintage, if you want, WWE ways of finishing Randy Orton matches with a classic RKO.
That's why it's the best finisher of all time, man, because it could be hit at anywhere at any point. This is why. Forget the stunner, forget the rock bottom. It's the RKO, man. But yeah, it's always exciting because you never know when he's going to hit it. And like I said, at this point, don't get me wrong, Shane attempting a punt looks dodgy as anything. Like, I didn't know if he was trying to use his left foot or his right foot the way he was teeing it up, because it was weird. But the fact that, like I said, from that point onwards, from the elbow drop, this becomes a 50-50 match, and it's kind of like Randy's on top, then Shane's back on top with the chair, and like obviously Randy puts him through the table, and it was like that towards the end of the match, and like I felt it built to a quality finish. And I'm not the biggest fan of Shane McMahon in wrestling matches, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought this was a great match, and it would be one of the few times you'll ever hear me say, go and watch this Shane McMahon match, because it's actually really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good as well. I think the only one I can think of the top end which I think is better is probably Kurt Angle, King of the Ring 2001. It's the only one that stands out to me more when Shane's done the German suplexes through the glass Tron at that time. Yeah, that was it was a very vicious looking match. But this one for me, I pleasantly surprised, I think, is the wording I'm going to use for this, because like you say, I see a Shane McMahon match, and not to give some Shane slander, but I was a bit like, oh, okay, here we go. We'll give it a go. We'll give it its time. But I thought for me this worked the best of way it could with its ability, because it was a personal feud, it was a blood feud. They added the stipulation of no holds barred. They used the toys to a correct amount. Randy Orton had the correct amount of help as well to give the heel heat there as well in there for the group. And Randy ultimately should be the one to pick up the victory as well. And like I say, this match, is the longest of the regular matches on the show, going at 18 minutes and 16 seconds. So, yeah, all in all, I think this ticks a lot of boxes. And ultimately, this leads them to Randy Orton then going against Triple H, as we mentioned earlier in the stream. Obviously, Triple H then gets to take over the personal rivalry which is going on with Stephanie McMahon. Of course, Randy Orton does get some actual action on Stephanie, actually doing the DDT on her when Triple H is actually handcuffed to the ring rope on the road to WrestleMania 25. But hey, that's a story for a different day. But what would be your star rating for this match here?
I think for me, it sounds generous, but I'm going to say a 4. Like I said, I think for a Shane McMahon match, I was thoroughly entertained from the word go. Even when he does do his twirly whirlies with the old kendo stick, like do you know what I mean? I can't complain about it. You pretty much summed it up with the way that the handicap, the way they use it is done well. The blood as well, I think, just adds to it as well. It just sells it a bit more, especially when at the point where he's teeing up whether to do the coast to coast or the elbow drop. It makes a more plausible reason for Randy to be laid out a bit longer on the table. Just for him to get up when he actually does the spot. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm going to say a 4.
Yeah, I can hear that as well. I'm going to go slightly less. I'm going to go 3.75, but for me, this was above my expectations. I was expecting like 2.5 star. I was not expecting to be blown out of the water. Yeah. But for me, it's just the fact as well. Like I said, the story, but also some of the camera work is fantastic in this. For me, you can really start to see Randy Orton's characteristics really shine through, that real sort of viper, the snake-like action that he's like at that point. You know, Randy Orton does his best work for me in 2009. I'm really a big fan of that time period with him. So yeah, I for me, this ticks a lot of boxes, and I'm going to go for a 3.75. Dave Mercer gives us a 3.5 star rating. So Dave, a little bit more harsh than us, but hey, will we be as harsh than us on the next match that we will talk about, which is going to be for the ECW Championship? Your favorite Jack Swagger going against Finlay with Hornswoggle as the manager for, of course, Finlay in this match. But to be honest, I'm not going to waste too much time on it. We're just going to give you all the detail of how this goes on, because it's the shortest match on the show by country mile as well. 7 minutes and 53 seconds. Some may say it may feel like a longer match, though. And then, Steve, you may be one of those people.
I'll do the summarizing for you. Jack Swagger won. Anyway, next match.
Look, it's a bit messy, this match. The claim it's chain wrestling going on. I'm not so sure of that. There's a bad roll up from the corner where Swagger's shoulder's not even pinned to the mat properly. Hornswoggle seems to be being an unwelcome distraction throughout the match as well. He just seems to be getting up in the wrong place, actually affecting Finlay rather than Swagger. Finlay's thrown into Swoggle as well, which sends Swoggle to the floor. And like you say, it's a gut wrench power bomb or the Swagger bomb at that point, which gives Jack Swagger the victory. There we go. Summed up lovely and quickly there for you, Nick, Steve. I didn't let you down on that one.
The fact that the commentators are like, and here we are to the ECW main event, and I'm like, please, it's Jack Swagger and Finlay. Like, this is just a really throwaway match. Like, genuinely, like, why is it even on the card? And I think, like, isn't the deal like Christian came back the week before and he's going to be challenging the champion at WrestleMania or something for the title? And I'm like, yay. I'm not Swagger's biggest fan. He bores me, and I just the fact that they honestly the way they treated the ECW Championship and brand at this period of time as well, I just think is just a absolute shambles, man. And I just think it was a complete waste. And yeah, the fact that we got, like I said, Finlay, like Finlay's okay. He's a very old school kind of wrestler, not my cup of tea, but on a pay-per-view, Finlay versus Jack Swagger, I mean, honestly, how many seats does that match alone fill? Because I'm pretty sure the number is a big fat 0.
I mean, to be fair, like, if I go back to my 2009 head, if I want to go back to where I was then, I was actually into the hyper Jack Swagger at this point, just purely because of the fact, like, he was the guy that came out and wrestled. He had, like, a good moveset. I enjoyed, like, his style of Vader Bomb or that he did from the corner. I liked the gut-wrench powerbomb finisher. He sort of reminded me watching like these NCAA champions throwing people around. You start thinking, oh, could it be like the next Kurt Angle or the next Brock Lesnar? Turned out it was just the first Jack Swagger, and it unfortunately didn't go very far. Got a world heavyweight title run, but look, when it came to outside of in-ring performances, the character wasn't really there, and you could see quite early once he went away from ECW to a Raw or a SmackDown, he just didn't connect the same, and it just wasn't going to be what you hoped it could be. Finlay, for me, I was always a fan of his work, but I just kind of felt to myself, like, when you look at Finlay, ECW, Hornswoggle as well, it's not ECW, is it? Let's be honest. For people that remember ECW from the 90s, this is WWE poking fun of saying this is the third brand. Go and help the young guys out. That's pretty much why Finlay's down there.
I think for me, I think my biggest problem with Swagger is that he's he was part of the wrong generation of wrestling. I think if you put Swagger in WWE today, yeah, all right, his promos are still not great, but there is a lot more people on TV today and just in wrestling in general that are more like Jack Swagger, and I think he would fit in better. Like, for instance, you've got people like the Creed brothers who are, do you know what I mean, background amateur wrestlers. There's a lot more guys just in general that have come from that sort of background, and I think he would just fit in a lot more better today. Like I said, for me, I think he just stood out like a sore thumb, and being this all American, and like I hated his music as well. I just hate Jack Swagger. Just wrong time period for me.
Unfortunately, every time I hear that music, I tend to sing it for about
Check
3 or 4 days afterwards. Yeah, it does stay in the brain, that one, and not always in a good way either. But are you a fan of Jack Swagger or Jack Hager, or Jake Hager, I should say, in AEW?
He's entertaining. This is what I'm saying. Wrong generation in AEW. The guy's entertaining, and like he fits in with everyone else that's there. And like, dude, I like his hat. I think it's great.
That was my question.
I find him more entertaining now than I did 15 years ago.
I would agree, but like you say, there's more charisma going on. Obviously, working with the likes of Chris Jericho at the same time as well. The American gimmick for me just it doesn't connect either. So that it wasn't a winner for me.
That's just the WWE doing their normal thing of trying to shove. They did this with like Lacey Evans, and they've done this with so many people before that they just want this American. Like Lex Luger as well, just this American hero, this American idol, and this guy do you know what I mean? He bleeds red, white, and blue, and like he has a tattoo of a giant bald eagle on his back, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like they do this every so often, or Vince used to do this every so often with one person, which like you're my all-American hero, and it's kind of like it never works, it never comes across because it's not what people want. Do you know what I mean? These people exist in real life. They are part of the army and the armed forces, and do you know what I mean? They serve in the Navy and all this kind of stuff. The fact that you're trying, they want, when it comes to wrestling, they want, like at this point, they want crazy characters like Hornswoggle and, do you know what I mean, Umaga and the Boogeyman and all that kind of stuff. They don't want an American hero. They have that in real life.
To be fair, in 2009, if you give me those options, I think I'd have taken Jack Swagger, to be fair. But that's just me. That's just me at that point there. If you're for me, the boogeyman. But, I mean, yeah, outside of Hogan and Kurt Angle, I think I would agree with a lot of the points you just made there, to be fair, like the American hero thing. Especially, I think that's why I made a comparison with Kurt Angle, because it's like he's the anti-babyface, like, with this as well. Yeah,
but I mean, I think the problem is that Hogan was the blueprint. And ever since Hogan, Vince has just been looking for another Hogan. Kurt Angle did really well, but like I said, there's been other people. He tried to do it with Lex Luger, didn't work. He tried to do it with Lacey Evans, didn't work. And do you know what I mean, when they piled and all that stuff about her previously being part of the army, I believe she was part of, like you're just constantly looking for a new Hulk Hogan. And it's like Hulk Hogan is a once in a generation talent. The guy's still around today, so it's like, why are you looking for a new one? He's already still here.
There you go. Well, that's enough of the old Jack Swagger ranting. I'm going to get your star rating for this match. I can't imagine it's very high.
2, dude. They showed up.
For me, I thought it's a bit of a dud, this one. I have to go lower than a 2. So I just think it was a bit botchy in places. I didn't like it. I felt it felt longer than it needed as well. I won't go full on dud, but I'll go for like half a star. I just didn't like it. Let's see what Dave said. Dave actually gave this 1 star, so he wasn't a big fan of it either, by the looks of things.
Yeah,
so
I think I'll change mine and go to a 1 as well. I think, like I said, it's botchy in places, and dude, the fact that I've ranted more about Jack Swagger than the actual match says a lot.
It tells you everything. Tino's seen this as well, gone for a 1.5. Thank you, Tino, for joining us. Says up, guys. Hope you're doing well. It's Tino's time. Wherever you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen, check your clocks. It will say Tino's time. Speaking of retros, by the way, I will be on Tino's channel later this month. We will be doing WrestleMania 8 as a watch along on his channel. Looking forward to being part of that. So that's the first show I ever watched. But we will move on in the meantime on back to match 4 on this show. And actually, that's going to be one with a bit of high stakes in it. It's going to be Shawn Michaels versus JBL. Of course, video package does come with this delightful one as well. Shawn Michaels having some financial problems. He becomes JBL's employee. Says it's not something he wants to do, but something that he has to do. He's hired to make sure that JBL was the world champion going into WrestleMania 25. HBK says that since he's joined JBL, he's done things he's not proud of. including a match where it's a number one contenders match. He technically laid down for JBL. He just didn't attack JBL. He accepted a clothesline from hell and was pinned at 1, 2, 3 to the mat. It goes to then the Royal Rumble, which we see John Cena versus JBL. And we see HBK give a sweet chin music to JBL, then to John Cena because he's got a job to do, puts JBL on top, but of course Cena kicks out. The ref is down this time as well. Cena goes on to win the match, which then leads to JBL saying that he was paying HBK to get him to WrestleMania, but that had failed. HBK says that he wants to kick JBL's teeth down his throat so badly. JBL challenges him to a match to No Way Out. And of course, if HBK is to win, he's free and he will be paid everything he's owed. But if he's to lose, then he's going to be the assistant for JBL for the rest of his life. And he said as well to bring the wife to show how much of a broken down old man he has become. So what's your thoughts then on the video package then when it comes to JBL and Shawn Michaels? Again, I think another really good job for me. It gave me enough detail of the story to know what I was going into for this match.
I'm thoroughly excited about this one. Like from a story narrative is my match of the night. Like, dude, looking forward to this one so much. I mean, just the whole idea of Shawn being someone's, do you know what I mean, employee is great. Like, I'm not JBL's biggest fan, but like at this point in time, he's obviously doing his millionaire gimmick where he invests in stocks and stuff, and he has all this money. And then the fact that the play that Shawn is, do you know what I mean, spent money in the wrong places and invested in the wrong things, I think is so good. And the fact that we had this whole dynamic, the whole story, and then the bit with Cena as well, when like he does his job and Cena still kicks out, he's one of the greatest moments, man. And it's like, it's so good to see like just in this storyline. And like I said, I would, for a storyline perspective, really excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Shawn Michaels is renowned for having great storylines. I mean, obviously, his wife was involved with the Chris Jericho storyline that went throughout the majority of 2008, the rivalry of the year for that year as well for WWE. And so, you know, no stranger of having great storylines is HBK. And obviously, he knows how to sell a story as well to get the sympathy, to get the crowd on side. Obviously, Tim says this the one where JBL has his JBL slave. Yes, it is that match indeed. You are correct there, Tino. And we'll go into the details of the match then for everybody because, of course, JBL comes to the ring first, and he's eyeballing Rebecca, who is sitting at ringside. That is, of course, Shawn Michaels' wife. She's in the front row. And, of course, early in the match, JBL reminds Shawn Michaels that only one mistake, if he makes one mistake, all JBL needs. And it actually becomes a bit of a match of mind games, which I think is quite fun. It adds to a bit to this one as well, because JBL smirking at ringside, giving HBK a steel chair, daring him to hit him to get the DQ. Of course, Shawn throws the chair away, punches JBL instead. But then he goes even deeper, goes to the submission holds like the figure fours, but on a tribute to Ric Flair. JBL gets to the ropes, but you know, HBK is hesitant to let go of the rope break as well. He actually has to, the last second, let go of the figure four. But HBK misses an elbow drop from the top rope, and this is then where we see JBL hit the first clothesline from hell. Of course, HBK does manage to kick out with two. JBL lands another one, and then instead of going for a pinfall, and I thought this was a strange decision, which is why I'm going to come to you immediately before going for the rest of the match here. Instead of deciding to pin Shawn Michaels after hitting the second one, he sort of kicks his lifeless body to the floor and says, "I'll take a count out of 10 instead."
Yeah, I get it from the point that it's almost like a sign of disrespect, where like he's trying to beat him down to the fact that he can't get back up again. I kind of like it, to be fair. Like I think it protects them both as well, that the fact that he's just taken a second clothesline from hell, which, by the way, in my opinion, best clothesline in the business. Yeah. I think it adds more to it for the fact that normally JBL delivers two of them. It's normally the pinfall, and the fact that it's the JBL character and it's the sign of disrespect. I really like this. I thought it was clever, stupid, but clever in the fact that he just wants to completely disrespect Shawn Michaels.
To be fair, your explanation, perfect, turns me around to my thoughts of what happened in the match. But like you say, logic, you pin the guy 3 seconds or 10 seconds, you know which one you should be taking. But of course, like you say, the JBL character just gets the better of him. And to be fair, I can respect that. I think that's a great point that you make there. But obviously, we've got the count of 10 on. Shawn does get in at the count of 9. So then, of course, JBL decides to throw Shawn to the floor once again, just throwing him over the top. It's like a Royal Rumble match, and Shawn Michaels just going back first to the floor. To the point then that obviously Shawn Michaels then looking lifeless, JBL showing that Shawn is broken down. down old man in front of his wife, Rebecca. And Rebecca does something that arguably could have caused a disqualification, but weirdly didn't. And she hits JBL. Of course, gets a massive pop from everybody. And this leads to Shawn Michaels making the classic Shawn Michaels comeback that he does, all his famous moves. Of course, hits the switching music and gets the 1, 2, 3. Shawn Michaels is free and gets the payments. So Shawn Michaels is not going to be debt anymore in his lifetime. All in all, I think that this ticked a lot of boxes, got the big pop of what it needed to for it. But your thoughts with the closing of this match?
A great forearm, by the way. For someone who's never probably wrestled in her life, and the connection that it makes, because it does get a bit of an echo to it. I was like, what a shot! Again, doesn't make sense because it should have been a DQ. Maybe the ref sneezed or he just blinked at that precise point. But I again thoroughly enjoyed it because it's just one of them things that adds to the story with these two. The fact that, do you know what I mean? He's trying to beat him down in front of his wife, and again, just make him look like he's absolute scum. I just thought was great, and I really appreciate it. And then, like I said, Shawn Michaels gets the win, and it's from this point on where we possibly get one of the greatest stories ever in WWE, where we build to Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania, obviously towards next year, because obviously everything that goes on. Like this, for me, this is the starting point to that story. Is this ending to this story?
Arguably, you could say you bang on the money with this because, like you say, it leads to the first match with Taker, which many say is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, and then you've obviously got the rematch, which is then leads to. So this is like the almost like you said, the starting point to where we're getting the retirement of Shawn Michaels. He's got like about a year left in the tank here, and it's amazing stuff indeed. Obviously, JBL, we say about retirements, only does a month after this because he goes for Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 25, loses in 25 seconds, and decides to retire. So I mean, to be fair, appreciate JBL while you've got him. I guess it's an interesting sentence to say out loud, isn't it? But at the same time, looking at this with a match, it was 13 minutes and 17 seconds. What would be your star rating for this one? Obviously, you seem quite happy with the storytelling of this match, but does it match to a star rating when you think about in-ring quality as well?
Yeah, I think for me, this is probably match of the night. I'm going to go 4.25. Like I said, I think it was great. Like I said, I think it's not obviously the best technical match from a wrestling perspective, but from a story point, I think it's fantastic. And like I said, I think that, I don't know, maybe I could have done with an extra 5-10 minutes just to maybe emphasize more of the point of the struggle, that the fact that Shawn Michaels really needs to win this one. But I'm going to say 4.25, maybe 4.5.
I like it. I'm a big fan of the match. I feel like I'm a bit harsh with what I'm going to say next. Then I'm going for a 3.5. Me, I thought I liked the match. I thought it was good. I thought it executed everything well. I enjoyed it. I felt as much near enough as the other match with Randy Orton and Shane. I think the only reason that one probably pips it is because it's got a few of the toys involved as well. But I mean, I do like the storyline narrative that this match presented. And I mean, obviously Shawn is free after this point. Like you say, it leads to what could be the great swan song of Shawn Michaels' career, and obviously the quick swan song to JBL's not long after as well. Shall we see what Dave has had to say? Dave Meltzer's rating for this match? Let's click it up and see for the first time here what he says.
I'm going to say 3.
He's gone lower. 1 3/4.
Is he mad? Oh my God.
Must have seen something we didn't, or we've seen something he hasn't. For sure.
Like, I know it's not the best wrestling match, but story-wise, I think it's fantastic.
Story-wise, is very good. I think it's quite strong story-wise. That for me, it's the strength of the match and how you played the mind games throughout. I got more and more of a fan of it the more I saw. So yeah, I'm a bit surprised as well.
What did he rate Swagger versus Finlay?
1. It's not that bad.
Dude, you can't do that, man. You can't be rating Shawn Michaels versus JBL 1 3/4 when you've just had that absolute hot garbage of Finlay versus Jack Swagger a 1. I think that's, do you know what? That's a shade on disrespectful.
Dave, if you watch him, you've disrespected NXT, Steve. He's not having it. He's not having it.
It's not me you've disrespected. It's Shawn Michaels and JBL. Jeez.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to try. We're going to... Well, I'll tell you what, we spoke on some highlights and some lowlights on the show. This for me is a bit of a weird, unnecessary moment of the show as well. Todd Grisham backstage with Chris Jericho. We're walking, he's going to walk out as champion. That's expected to say he's going to Elimination Chamber. He says he's going to invite Ric Flair to retirement for a match at WrestleMania, and then he says he wasn't serious with it. Yeah, I know that this is the point where Chris Jericho is pretty much calling out all the legends and stuff, and I think we get to WrestleMania, and of course he's taken the likes of Roddy Piper and Jimmy Fry Snooker. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. It just felt a bit unnecessary. It just felt like a waste of time for me watching it on this show.
Again, exactly that. What was the point? It doesn't add anything. Like, this is what essentially he could have done this on Raw or SmackDown. Do you know what I mean? This is a narrative that doesn't need to be on a pay-per-view. Like, again, you've paid $50, $60 for this pay-per-view in America, and like I've got Jericho banging on about a sub, like a, do you know what I mean, a sub story that they're just randomly thrown out there just to fill one certain point of WrestleMania. Nah, not for me, man. They're just pointless.
Yeah, pointless indeed. But one thing that, well, I suppose it's definitely not pointless. There's a big point of this, but this isn't exactly how it plays out when you look at the main event. Obviously, John Cena versus Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho versus Kane versus Mike Knox versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship inside the Elimination Chamber. And of course, when you look at this, we see the likes of, I believe it's Kane and Mike Knox making their way to the ring. We see John Cena also making his way to the ring to go inside the pod. Kofi Kingston is that fourth guy to go into the pod. He's high-fiving the crowd, and everyone's going, "Way, we got Kofi coming to the ring." Just as he's about to enter, he's attacked from behind, ladies and gents. That's right. He goes face first into the steel steps by one other than Edge. Edge, of course, had lost the WWE Championship earlier in the evening. Cements the point by getting the steel chair, doing a concerto between the chair and the steps. And this is the point then when Edge runs into the ring, puts himself in the pod, gets it locked. Rey Mysterio comes down as well to try and help out, make sure that Kofi Kingston is all right. Tries to get to the pod himself, so he doesn't get any entrance music either. Looks like he's trying to get to Edge into the pod, but obviously managed to separate them. And obviously, it becomes a point where Kofi Kingston is taken away from ringside. Chris Jericho comes out, so we have a new Elimination Chamber because commentary are very confused of what's going on, but the bell rings, so the match, instead of Kofi Kingston, has Edge instead. What a big twist and a big swerve to do. And obviously, for this time period, this is quite shocking.
They didn't give enough time for Finlay to come out and then debate it for 30 seconds before he said, "Sure, Edge, you take that spot in the chamber." Yeah, just a complete hodgepodge of a story angle. Like, for what reason would the referees just be like, "Yeah, sure, you can take his spot"? Don't know. Just wanted, but on the plus side, dude, this is one of the key moments to Kofi Mania because they talked about the fact that Kofi never got opportunities, and when he did, they screwed him over by doing stuff like this. So, dude, we wouldn't have had Kofi Mania if it wasn't for moments like this.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And Tina says, I hated Edge for this moment. To be fair, Edge done his job pretty darn well. Tina asked if we could see something like that this year, possibly. I mean, I wouldn't expect it in Australia at this particular moment. Obviously, that's for those watching in the long, long future. That's the Elimination Chamber we're heading to is Perth. I don't see it personally.
I hate to say it, but I think this will be just a very okay Elimination Chamber. Like, I'm not expecting much in terms of story progression, shocking moments, just for the fact that, again, it's the time zone thing. The fact that, hey, I get to watch it at 9-10 o'clock in the morning, but the high majority of you in the audience, which is America, you guys have to watch it at 2 or 5 a.m. depending on what side of the country you're on. I imagine it's just going to be a good show, but nothing more than that, really.
I have to agree. We have to wait and see, but we'll do predictions for those next Tuesday for those people keeping score at home. But we'll go into the details of this match then, because this match obviously quite a lengthy one. There's a few details to go into of this 29-minute 46-second match here between these guys. Obviously, Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho start, and quite a few big spots are done these first 5 minutes here with these two together. See Mysterio jumping over the top rope, doing a senton onto Jericho onto the steel floor. We see then Mysterio missing a shoulder tackle in the corner, goes straight into the glass of the pod. Obviously, probably some form of plastic of the pod, but it made a really big sound anyway.
The bulletproof glass this is the point where they emphasize that it's bulletproof glass, people.
I like the song "Bulletproof" by LaRue in 2009, but that's probably as far as we'll go with that.
That's so funny.
Mysterio then climbs to the top of the cage as well. Is hanging, falls onto Jericho, does a hurricanrana, and also does a springboard senton for a near fall as well. And this is all in the first 5 minutes. I thought to myself, what a cracking opening to this match between these two in the chamber here.
Yeah, but do you know what it is? Which was in the back of my mind is like, dude, I remember what happened in the first match where we had the two big guys in, and guess what? There's two big guys in this match. Watch them two come out, and it's going to be absolutely flat for the next 10 minutes.
Spoiler alert. Enter number 3, Kane, into the match. And of course, Kane, it's short and sweet, really, for me here, because Kane is dominant basically for like 4 minutes, but then actually ends up falling to a 619 and a code breaker. And funnily enough, Ray then does a seated senton from the top of the pod, and Kane's eliminated within like 5 minutes of the match. He's not there for very long. A very different contrast to the first one. Like you say, the big guy's coming, but Kane doesn't last very long, and you would expect him to last longer in an Elimination Chamber match. Apparently, according to commentary, his third time in there.
Yeah, but I think, like we said in the first one, that the big guys are in there to add a certain... They're in there for a specific reason. Again, with Kane, he's come in, he's dominated the two of them for 3, 4, 5 minutes. He's done what he needed to do. Now he's just there to simply take a pinfall and be eliminated. And it's kind of like, this is why I don't really like people like Kane and Mike Knox being in there, because they're in there for one reason. And it's kind of like, it doesn't add to the other 4 people who are in it that are legitimately trying to win a title, but they're in there for the reason. So you can't argue with it, really.
Absolutely. Speaking of reasons, Mike Knox enters at number 4. Like you say, the big guys are in the middle of the match once again. We're slowing things down, but of course, it's different to the last time, like we mentioned. It's going to be the same fate as Kane, actually. He's going to dominate for a few minutes, but then, of course, pretty much he gets taken out. He has Rey Mysterio assisted Abigail-style position, and then it actually lands into a code breaker from Chris Jericho. Jericho getting the pin on Knox. So, of course, that means Knox is taken out of the match. Entering in at number 5 then, obviously we have still the two people that started the match, Mysterio and Jericho in the match, but Edge enters in at 5 because why not allow him in the match? He's not meant to be there, but he's there now. He's a SmackDown superstar in a Raw chamber match, but he's there. Ray jumps straight into the pod, landing rights, and actually throwing Edge into the bulletproof glass. We see a sunset flip powerbomb as well from Jericho to Edge from the top rope, whilst Edge is delivering a German suplex to Rey Mysterio. I thought that was a really fun looking spot with the 3 guys on the corner of the ring.
Sorry, remind me of the spot again. I completely zoned out. I was laughing at the previous joke you made.
Sorry. It was the sunset flip powerbomb from Jericho to Edge, where at the same time Edge has got hold of Rey Mysterio and does a German suplex. They all kind of go flying.
Yeah. You again, one of these creative spots that you kind of expect from Chris Jericho, Edge, and Rey Mysterio. Do you know what I mean? And like, sort of the early signs of what we get today. Really, absolutely loved it.
Absolutely brilliant indeed there. John Cena enters at number 6, immediately going for Edge and Jericho. Cena gets Edge up for the AA. And, well, we mentioned about shocks. We mentioned that, Kane goes quite quickly. Mike Knox goes quite quickly. John Cena's like in this match for like 2 minutes. And then he's got Edge up for the AA. Going to take out the guy that shouldn't be in this match. Jericho hits a code breaker. Rey Mysterio goes, screw the babyface. Going to hit him with a 619. Edge then hits the spear and pins John Cena. The champion is out. Again, the big shock again in the night. But I think the most shocking part is that both of the champions that walk into the show are not in the match for very long. John Cena's gone like within literally 2 minutes of entering.
But did you see how they protected John Cena more by the fact that he had to take three separate finishers before he got the pinfall, whereas Edge just gets a roll up. So, John Cena wins lulls is still a thing at this point. Like, obviously, this is very John Cena era, and like, like I said, I appreciate this just for the fact that John Cena wasn't going to win. I think this made this a hell of a lot more exciting. Like, and then the fact that Edge is in the match already from the start of the match, you're kind of like, nah, there's no way Edge is going to win this. But then as soon as John Cena gets eliminated, you're kind of like, oh wait, Edge actually might win this now. This might actually be a reality because John Cena is no longer in it. But like I said, it was shocking, but like I said, I enjoyed it just for the fact that John Cena wasn't going to win.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, to be fair, like I know that John Cena is a lot of people's GOAT, but obviously I'm in the same people of that era that I preferred when John Cena would lose, and especially in this fashion, it was shocking. Like you say, very well protected in doing so. But again, that big shock again in the evening, you're getting a new world champion. And like you say, could Edge actually do it? You look around and say, well, Jericho at that point was superstar of the year 2008. It's a possibility he could win. Rey Mysterio had been top of the mountain before, but you thought maybe, not sure if he will or won't. Obviously, Jericho and Mysterio had been at the start of the match as well. Edge had been someone who'd actually already been beaten earlier in the evening in a few minutes. So you kind of felt like it was a very open playing field here of who would actually walk away here as the champion. Obviously, Jericho would be the one that be eliminated next. There was a West Coast pop attempt from Rey Mysterio. Of course, he lands into a Walls attempt from Chris Jericho, and that sort of then switched into a reverse pin, sort of a variation of a roll up for Jericho to be eliminated, which then leads us then to Rey Mysterio and Edge. Then obviously we've got multiple near falls with Rey on Edge as well, missing the spear into a roll up. We see a tilt the world DDT as well, very close near fall attempts. Edge goes for a power bomb on the sort of steel sort of floor, and we see Rey actually reverse that into a face buster as well, which I thought was a cool looking spot here. I thought was worth a mention. But then it comes to a point with a real big turning point towards the finish of this match, because Rey runs at Edge on that sort of steel floor, and it's pretty much catapulted like a javelin, if you want, into the pod and into the bulletproof glass. And it really does feel like bulletproof glass at this point, because, well, let's be fair, Rey is completely out of it. He gets back into the ring all groggy. Edge hits his spear, and of course, the guy that lost his championship in the first 5 minutes of the Elimination Chamber to start the show walks away at the end of the show with the other World Championship. Of course, he was not meant to be in the match. He got himself in, and he ends up taking away the gold. Edge walking away as your World Heavyweight Champion. Thoughts of the match?
Thoroughly entertaining. Like I said, the whole, it's just from start to end, just entertaining. Like Edge replacing Kofi, the quality of wrestling that we get in the first couple of minutes with Jericho and Mysterio. We get our quiet period with Mike Knox and Kane, but then we go back to, again, it's exactly the same as how the first match played out. Just a good start, good ending, middle bit. So I said, thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just a great result, and the fact that the story plays out that Edge wins it, I just think is great. And it's kind of like we said, we've never seen it since, and it's something that you kind of like. It probably won't ever be replicated, because it's kind of like everyone's just going to go back to, they did that in 2009 with Edge. So yeah, it's just one of the moments where I'm glad I've seen it. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they should replicate it ever. I think it's a stand-up moment, like we say. Shock inside the chamber is the title on the video there, and it's like, it's something you just don't ever expect to see again. Like you say, like now we have like a one men's chamber match, one women's chamber match. The possibility of doing it is not really there anymore, and I think that's what makes this a standalone and a big reason to need to see this show, because it's so special. And I think that it's a fun time and it's a fun match here for me. I really enjoyed this chamber match. With the, like you said, same structure, but I feel like there's a lot more action, like high-flying action, bigger spots as well with the smaller athletes. The bigger guys aren't in the match for as long. There's, again, another big shocking moment, just like the first match. Obviously, at first off, Edge gets in the match on the expense of Kofi, but then number two, John Cena's not in it for very long before he's eliminated. I just think, for me, it ticks a lot of boxes, this one. Like you say, they're moving on into WrestleMania. John Cena feels robbed of his championship because Edge is the one that pinned him. That leads to them two going off to WrestleMania 25. If I'm not mistaken, the Big Show is added to this match as well in some format for reasons that I don't remember at this particular time. But at the same time, it's good. It keeps everything ticking as it should be at that point. And I've got to say, I pretty enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I wasn't, like I said, if you look at this on card, you're kind of like, nah. You look at some of the participants in the Elimination Chamber matches, and you're like, nah. I got a feeling this could be quite dull, but the story, like I said, this isn't the biggest wrestling fan pay-per-view, but story-wise, this is great from start of the show to the end. Commentary sketchy, but otherwise, it's a thoroughly great show.
I would have to agree indeed there. And what would be your star rating for this match then?
I'm probably be a bit more generous. So I'm going to say an 8. Like I said, I found it entertaining. Obviously, there's that dud Finlay swagger match in the middle, which really brings it down. No, in fact, I think 8's too high. I would say 7.5.
Fair play. I'm actually, as for the show, I'm going to say 8 out of 10. I think it's an 8 out of 10 show. I think it's a brilliant pay-per-view from start to finish. 5 matches, doesn't need more. The only thing I would do is I would have put Jack Swagger and Finlay on the dark match, and I would have put Melina and Beth Phoenix on the main show, because I'm pretty sure that would have been a better match. I actually would have been more excited to see that match, to be fair, of the two, and probably the time that would have been given would have been similar on the pay-per-views as well, but that's just me. But for a star rating on this match, what would you give for this match? Sorry.
For the main event, what did I give the first one? Like 3 3/4. I'm gonna say 4. I think that the shock value of Edge adding to it, and then like I said, Edge actually winning as well. I'm gonna give it a 4.
So I gave the first one a 4, and I'm going to give it the same bump up as you did. I'm going to go for a 4.25. I think for me, it's just fantastic with the extra spots there. The 3 guys, obviously with Jericho, Edge, and Mysterio flying across the ring with the sunset flip powerbomb and German suplex was amazing. Mysterio literally in the first 5 minutes. I mean, Mysterio's an MVP in this match for me from start to finish. Incredible spots that he does in it as well. They say he's like Spider-Man. Really, literally is. But
when is he not an MVP, to be fair?
Yeah, to be fair, all in all, I think a great show. Let's say out of 10 for me, and it's a fun time. Noel, I would totally say, I've got to say, when it comes to shows that we cover and we say you should go and watch this, you've got 2 with Elimination Chamber coming up. You've got 2 great chamber matches. You've got a storyline narrative that plays from start to finish, which is fantastic. You have got 2 out of 3 matches that mean something in the middle, and I think this show, even though it's 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think it flies by.
Yeah, there's not a point where, or say, aside from the Finlay Swagger match, there's not a point otherwise where you watch this show and go, yeah, okay, now this match needs to finish now. So like, it does actually go by quite quickly.
Absolutely, indeed. If you've enjoyed the review, make sure to hit the like button. Now we're going to do our final few comments that we've got in, and then we'll wrap things up here today. But Zane here, this question got put in a long time ago, but I want to save it for now. Was this the greatest No Way Out of all time? So, I mean, obviously, we're having to really rack our brains here now, if you can think of one. But I can think of one better off the top of my head. And the one I can think of is 2001, which of course does feature the likes of the 3 stages of hell match, Triple H versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Obviously I think they gave like a singles match, no holds barred match, and then a steel cage match. It's an absolute epic encounter. There's a brilliant fatal 4-way in this, which does feature Chris Benoit, X-Pac, and a couple of others that escape my at the top end at the moment. But Kurt Angle and The Rock, steel cage match as well for the championship to close the show as well. For me, if you look at the 2001 cycle of Royal Rumble, No Way Out, and WrestleMania 17, it's like a perfect trilogy of pay-per-views. So I would say that's the best No Way Out ever. 2002, NWO make their debut. That's what's most famous for. 2003, I can remember Rock versus Hogan one more time. 2004, Eddie Guerrero winning the World Championship against Brock Lesnar, or WWE Championship over Brock Lesnar on that show. And yeah, I mean, 2006, I think is... no, that's not the
2000 as Triple H. 2000 as Triple H versus Cactus Jack for just Tart versus Krill, which is a great match.
A great match as well there. So there were some great ones over the time. For me, 2001 is the one that takes the cake. I think that's the best one ever. If you wanted to know where I ranked this one, I would actually put it second.
Like I said, without remembering the full cards and properly going in depth, I couldn't give you an honest opinion. Like, I think this is pretty good. So, like, I'd have to go with your word and just say 2001 because I'm a cheapskate and I can't. My brain's not as good as everyone else's, and I can't remember every single match card. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
I think it's a great time, this one, and yeah, like we say, it's definitely worth checking out. But there is a little bit of sort of, let's say, questioning of Mike Knox. What is Mike Knox doing in the main event? Honestly, Mike Knox, he never got a push. So Mike Knox was basically the guy that was in ECW with a gimmick. He was the one that sort of stood out a little bit with a couple of others, and he got an opportunity to go to Raw, I think, in 2008. And he just went through this little period where he was the one rivaling with Rey Mysterio. They mentioned on commentary he got into the match via winning a battle royal, and I think, like Nick Steve said, never got a push, not the big name, but sometimes you get the opportunity to get an undercard guy in a chamber match. They did it with Kozlov at the start of the show. I'm surprised Bronson Reed actually is not in this year's one. I think he would have been a perfect fit as it being in Australia. But at the same time, I think Mike Knox, like you said, he's there to do a job, and he went in and he did that job. He wasn't there to be the guy to go and walk away with the championship.
He was exactly like Vladimir Kozlov, though. He was in the match and just did nothing. And it's kind of like, what's the point? What was the point in having 6 people in? You might as well just have had 5. Like I said, neither of them got a spot or a moment in the match to just do something. It was kind of like, you're just a body for the sake of taking a pinfall, unfortunately.
Mm. And Mike Knox apparently is in the NWA right now in a tag team with Trevor Murdoch, which is good to know. Thank you, Ray, for spitting the facts there for us. I know the answer to this question from Zane before we even bring it up. If you could bring back any title, what title would you bring back, Alex Steve?
Oh, it's too easy to say the European Championship as much as I love the title. Yeah, I'd like to say, I think for me it's got to be the Cruiserweight one, because just for the fact that I do love Cruiserweights, and I think with the current roster that WWE have, there is a lot of great talent that will benefit from a Cruiserweight Championships with the likes of, for instance, Dragon Lee. I think Dragon Lee as a Cruiserweight champion just sounds exciting to me. You put him in matches with, for instance, Wesley when he eventually gets called up. There's people like Johnny Gargano. I know Johnny deserves better, but I think as a starting point, a run with a Cruiserweight Championship for Johnny Gargano would just be immense.
I can agree with a lot of what you said there. I think the Cruiserweight, when you look at WWE's history, the Cruiserweight title was the one. I mean, they tried the Hardcore title was the 24/7 title, and that didn't really work. So, it worked for its era back in the Attitude Era. I think the modern day had a funny few skits at the start, but didn't kind of materialize further. So it ended up being taken away in the end. So I think the Cruiserweight...
The funniest skit was when Nikki throws it and doesn't even get it in the bin. It just lands on the floor. Let's be honest. That's the best. That's the funniest skit.
Yeah, it did have some fun moments. But I think for me, if I was to bring any title, I'm saying any title, I would love to see, I was always disappointed WCW got rid of their television championship. And I think that would be a good sort of, like you say, European Championship is a way they could go with it, but obviously TV title would work really well for Raw and SmackDown, could go on both shows, could be perfect for that like undercard person that's looking to get themselves where they're trying to get to that next level, which would be a mid-card title,
Yeah. I think the European title will, depending on how it goes, if NXT Europe ends up happening, the European title will return as the main title. I think it kind of makes sense that is the title. But yeah, for me, Cruiserweight or I'd even go as crazy, not even to say bring back title, just bring in a title which is a women's mid-card title, because that's desperately needed at this point.
I think it would be good, especially if they could book it. Like, I mean, they don't do enough with it. They're doing more now with the women's tag teams, but they could do more if they can actually book it properly. Then I wouldn't be against it. And Roger said with the last one, did you like the number one announcer Funaki? Of course, back in the day, it was entertaining.
Yeah, especially when was it him in the Rumble in 2000 when is it him that gets dashed over the top rope when his face ends up exploding all over the mat because of the landing? Or was that Tucker? Okay, my bad. I used to love it. Yeah,
those two were being thrown over all the time there. But Funaki, I think, did have a go at the announcing stuff, and it was pretty intense time period. I'm not sure how well it would go down now, but yeah, 2004
when
or whatever it was.
Do you remember when they used to spend 10 minutes introducing every single announcer from every other country for some random reason?
When you used to watch pay-per-views live,
talking about announcers, actually, they need to fix the network, because every time I put a pay-per-view on, I get the Spanish or the French audio commentary. Why? I'm in the UK. Why is the UK commentary or the English commentary not first? I don't understand it. I was like, every time I put it on, bonjour, and I'm like, why is the guy waffling French?
That's funny. That's fun stuff indeed. Well, we're going to wrap up there, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to say big thanks to everyone that has watched this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to hit the like button. If you're watching on delay, thank you for taking the time to listen to our review of No Way Out 2009, the 15-year anniversary. Of course, the show most famous for Edge being the ultimate opportunist, losing the WWE Championship in the first couple of minutes, but walking away the World Heavyweight Champion. We will be back with our next rewind in 2 weeks' time. Not leaving it long for this one. 2 weeks' time. NXT Arrival is going to be the next one. Of course, that will be the decade long since the WWE Network started. Speaking of fixing issues. And of course, as well, the start of what was NXT takeovers as well. But keep an eye on the channel, because we're going to decide it early, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be going out tomorrow. The WrestleMania Rewind. What will it be? The options go out tomorrow, and you've got to the end of the week to vote. That way, then we can decide all the content that will be going on between now and WrestleMania. So make sure to vote wisely. But that's all from us. And Steve, thank you for taking the time to watch the show, review the show, give all your time as always. It's always massively appreciated.
Always a pleasure, dude. Sorry that I do waffle one and keep you guys hanging around longer than you should do. I just get all excited and I just mark myself out. Do you know what I mean?
We have a great time having you on, man, each and every time. It's never a wasted moment. And a big thank you to all the chat as well for all your questions, all your comments as well. To be fair, without you guys, these shows, they probably don't exist. So we do appreciate it a hell of a lot. But that's all from us. Thank you for watching. And if you want to see more videos, check out other bits on the channel. There's loads of videos waiting for you in the meantime, some shorts as well. So make sure to go check them out now. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you in the next video.